Okay, welcome. My name is Pat Dillon. I'm not usually the one who's up here in front. That's usually Homer's job as the MC. But I told him he couldn't be the MC and an inductee in the same evening. So he passed the torch to me for at least this evening. I'd like to welcome you here to the Potomac chapter of U.S. Lacrosse. It's our 5th Hall of Fame induction ceremony. Give you a little history. A number of years ago, Homer brought up the possibility of having a Hall of Fame event for our group. We didn't have a Hall of Fame established. Believe it or not, with all the lacrosse that's been played here in this area for a long number of years. Well, we were a hard-working group. We still are. A lot of projects, a lot of stuff on our plates, and we said, that's a great idea. We'll get around to it. We'll get around to it. And so the idea languished, and Homer kept bringing it up. It unfortunately took the sudden and untimely death of Homer's good friend Tom Shekels to really give us the push that we needed to bring this dream to a reality and have our chapter Hall of Fame. And Tom was inducted as the very first honoree for the Potomac Chapter Hall of Fame. We're here tonight to celebrate the accomplishments of 6 special people and induct them tonight as our 5th Hall of Fame class. Now, before we start, I would like to recognize past inductees who are here, and we do have some. If you've ever been to the National Hall of Fame ceremony, you know they have a big parade where they have the past inductees come in and they have the spotlights going and all. I mean, it's a huge deal. Well, we're not quite there yet, and I did have an idea to bring a little flashlight and I was going to shine it, but I didn't do that. So. Anyway, if the past inductees who I announced could wave or stand or let us know where you're seated. From the class of 2004, we have Rob Wardley. Where are you, Rob? I know he's here. He's around somewhere. Also from the class of 2004, Mr. Dick Adele. From the class of 2004, me. All right, from the class of 2005, my good friend Susan Merritt here in the front. And we have also Mr. Tom Tufts. Where are you, Tom? I know you're here. And from 2005, also Mr. Dave Urich. Coach, how are you? Okay, from last year's class, the class of 2006, we have Lenny Castellino. And Elaine Knobloch. Elaine, where are you? Okay. And also from 2006, Tristan Zaya. Now, before we really begin the formal part of the ceremony, I do want to acknowledge a couple of special guests who are here. We have from our U.S. Lacrosse headquarters, Alex Lombard, who's the new Major Gifts Officer. Alex is over here. There you go. And sitting next to Alex is Liz Piper. If you've ever called the membership department, you've probably talked to Liz in some form of fashion. I also want to send a special thank you to all of the sponsors who took out an ad in the program for tonight. When we had the very first program back in 2004, I think it was the first time we really put one together, we had no ads. It was a nice program, but it had no ads, no pizzazz to it. So we've gotten better and better every year, and I think this is a particularly good-looking program, if I do say so. And you'll see the ad on the back for the Taworaton ceremony. That's here, sponsored by the University Club, May 30th. They're one of our sponsors. So thank you to everybody who took out an ad. It helps us to keep the cost of the ceremony down to a reasonable level, so we only have to charge you all a reasonable price to be here tonight. And to Mr. Bob Johnston of Premium Distributors, who donated a lot of the beer and wine that we're consuming this evening. honor as the MC for the evening. I did come to the conclusion that the less you hear from me, and the more you hear from the presenters and the inductees, the better off we'll all be. So, without further ado, I'd like to begin the ceremonies. Now, we are not going in alphabetical order. Jen thinks that's great because with the name of Adams, I'm sure you probably have to go first for everything, so not tonight. Our first inductee, because she begged me to be the first inductee, is Ann Monahan. What I'd like to do, at the suggestion a number of years back of Homer's wife Karen, her suggestion was, why don't you tell people a little bit about the presenters? Because everybody has a program and you're reading all the great things about the inductees. So before you bring the presenter up, you ought to tell people why are they important to the people who are being inducted. So just a little note each time when we have one of the presenters, I'm going to tell you a little bit about them. So Ann's presenter, she played her high school lacrosse in Baltimore. She had an outstanding career at the University of Maryland, including being a team captain. She continued her career and played on the U.S. national team. She's a member of our Hall of Fame and also the Baltimore chapter's Hall of Fame. She teaches physical education at the National Cathedral School, and she's coached at NCS just down the street from Ann at Sidwell Friends for the last almost 25 years. Ladies and gentlemen, Susan Merritt.
I'm not sure if I like this idea of Ann wanting to go first, but since Ann began teaching at Sidwell in 1969, we've crossed paths many times. Ann started lacrosse at Sidwell in 1970 when I was a sophomore in high school in Baltimore. I remember playing teams from Sidwell because they had so few teams to play against in DC, if any at all. So she would bring her teams to Baltimore and play the private schools up there who had teams. Then when I was at Maryland, Ann organized a group of college lacrosse players to help her teach the game to local PE teachers and coaches. And I was one of the collegiate players who helped spread the game to aspiring coaches. I have Ann to thank for that. Then I joined the coaching ranks in the DC private schools in 1977, and we've been coaching against each other for the last 30 years. At the middle school, upper school, all levels in between. But my main memory of Ann doesn't really have anything to do with lacrosse. It's more of a field hockey story, but it speaks to her as a person. Back in the 70s, I hate to say that, the national tournament was played at various sites across the country, and it was whoever wanted to host the national tournament. It was always over November, the Thanksgiving weekend. And in 1974, I was a 20-year-old. I thought, wow, that'd be really cool to play in the national tournament. It was being hosted at Northern Illinois University in November, outside. I don't know why I thought that was going to be fun, but I thought, yeah, I had played lacrosse at the national tournament. I loved that. I thought I'd love to do it at the hockey tournament as well. Well, you had several selection processes you had to go through. I was collegiate, so I went through a Washington College process. Ann was a club player, post-collegiate club player at the time. She went through her own process. And then we both made it on our respective teams to the Southeast tournament. And from there, Southeast teams were picked to play at the national team tournament against other districts. So we both made Southeast 1. I was the only collegiate player on that team. It was all club players. And there were several players who had played together, colleagues of Ann's. They had played together for several years, both through Washington and Southeast. And they weren't too happy about the idea of this little whippersnapper coming up and taking somebody's position. So we went to Northern Illinois University in November, outdoors. And I thought this was great. And we played in the tournament. There were some of the people who had played with Ann who really didn't like the idea I was on this team. And they let me know in no uncertain terms that they didn't want me on the team. And they actually cornered me in the locker room and said, "We don't want you on this team." And make sure you give us the ball. I was like, ooh, this is what sports are like at this level. I was very, very disillusioned at that point. I was a wide-eyed 20-year-old. Well, as those people continued to try and force me into a corner, Anne kind of took me under her wing and said, don't listen to them, you're doing fine, just do what you're doing, you're playing great. Just on and on, she encouraged me the whole time. And I went on to make the U.S. developmental team in hockey that year, and I know I couldn't have done it without a field player who was encouraging me like that. And this was a long time ago, and it obviously left a lasting impression on me. For the last 37 years, maybe 38, that you've been at Sidwell, Anne has guided her students at Sidwell with the same care, encouragement, and respect as she showed me back in 1974. These are lessons that are not easily forgotten. So now it is my pleasure to introduce to you a member of the Agnes Irwin Hall of Fame in Philadelphia, the American University Hall of Fame, and now our newest inductee into the Potomac Lacrosse Hall of Fame, Anne Monahan.
Good evening, everybody. Coaches, administrator, parents, friends, thank you so much. This is indeed a huge honor. I can't tell you. And thank you, Sue, for the very kind words. We go back a long way. I remember playing Southeast with Sue. I was the right inner, she was the right wing, and she did a great job. She was wonderful. And I'm sorry you had a bad impression with the other players, but anyway. We were a tough group. Anyway, in the early 70s, I was teaching at Sidwell with my dear friend and cohort, Sherry Vetter-Millard. And Sherry and I wanted to start lacrosse at Sidwell. And the only way we could was have the clinics that we recruited Sue and other hockey players on the team, Jill Rudy, a couple other people, come quick. I know you know how to play lacrosse, but come teach at this clinic. We're going to teach the other coaches how to do it, how to hold the stick, this is the stick. And it was good. So, oddly enough, I mean, can you believe this close to Baltimore and there was no lacrosse here in the 70s? I mean, it was like amazing. And so I'm coming from Philadelphia where you grew up playing it, and I was amazed. So anyway, we started on our way, and the first few seasons at Sidwell, I have one of my students here who played on the first team. We had nobody to play in Washington, and so Sherry and I drove on up to Baltimore and played other hockey friends we knew at the Baltimore Friends Park School. And so gradually, slowly through the 70s, the game spread through the private schools, and we went into the 80s, and still no public schools in Virginia and Maryland didn't have lacrosse. I know the roots of my passion for lacrosse started with my grandfather, Thomas Strobar, who in 1959 was one of the first inductees into the National Lacrosse Hall of Fame. He was the first goalie. He was a graduate of Johns Hopkins and originated the game of box lacrosse. He went to Hopkins for the induction. We went to Hopkins for the induction ceremony, and the exhibition game was the first game of lacrosse I'd ever seen. And guess what? They played with wooden sticks. They played with no helmets, no boundaries, same position as women, because I can remember thinking, what is a couple point? You know, what is a first and second home? You know, what the heck is that? Anyway, my first introduction to playing lacrosse was at the Agnes Irwin School in Philadelphia. And having never played, even my grandfather didn't teach me yet. So 7th grade, first game, there was a ball right outside the crease, and I thought, and instead of picking it up and throwing it in, I just whacked it like a field hockey ball. And it counted. I'm like, yes, this is the game. I'm hooked. And so that started my playing. I loved it. And another reason for my passion was my mother, Barbara Strobar. She was an outstanding athlete, pioneer of women's athletics. She was a U.S. field hockey player, nationally ranked squash player. She promoted squash in Boston and Philadelphia, a nationally ranked tennis player. She's in the Middle States Hall of Fame for tennis. You know, she did all the junior rankings. I mean, we'd sit down during the summertime and she'd be going through, man, I didn't think he didn't play so-and-so in such and such a tournament. What should she be ranked, you know? You know, she was a hard worker, but an administrator, she had passion for her sports. And I knew when I went to college, I had to teach sports. I mean, I had to do what I did best, and that was it, sports. And so that was an easy decision. Anyway, let me explain how I got started in McLean Youth. It was Steve Ritterbush, who's here tonight, thank you, called me up and he said, Ann, you've got to do girls lacrosse. We've got to have it for McLean Youth. I said, well, I knew I would do this because I wanted my daughters to play. And they were 8 and 10 at the time, and so I said, yes. You do the paperwork, I'm showing up to coach, that's it. With 3 kids and working full-time, and said, well, I didn't have much time in my day, so I would come after the, you know, Sidwell practices, and then I'd go over to McLean and do the practices for the kids. Anyway, I really want to thank and pay tribute to all the coaches and refs and administrators of our community lacrosse programs in Potomac, because this is great. I mean, what the job we've done in the last few years, or the last 15 years, we're now one of the better communities of lacrosse. I mean, we're as strong as Baltimore, and you know, other areas. Our teams are doing great, and we're in the high schools in Virginia now and Maryland, and you know, it's just going to snowball. It's going to get better and better. And to all the young players and coaches, take the love you have for this game, your passion, and share it with the next generation. They are the future of this great game. So, thank you very much.
These ceremonies. I had no idea about Ann's grandfather. That's amazing. That really is amazing. Another Hopkins connection. You learn something new every time you come to one of these things. Okay. Our next inductee is going to be Mr. Kevin Giblin. Guys, come on out. Come on in. Come on in. I see you back there. Okay. Kevin's presenter tonight. He played his high school lacrosse at Georgetown Prep, though Kevin was not his coach, as I understand. Or was he? They're looking at each other like, all right. Okay. He continued playing as a club player down at Duke University. He's taught and coached at Mater Dei. And he's been an assistant coach with Kevin for more than 15 years, so I understand it. And this season he's taking a sabbatical, and he's going to be an assistant coach for the volunteer assistant coach for the men's team at Penn State University. And I think they're coached by a prep alum, is that correct? Assistant coach. Okay. There's a connection with Georgetown Prep there at Penn State, so he's taking that sabbatical and is going to be working with the men's team at Penn State. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Mike Kubik.
Before I introduce Kevin, I thought I might spend a few minutes telling you why he's being honored here tonight. When Dick Long retired from DeMatha, he took the time to call Coach Giblin personally. It was an emotional time for Dick, and the two men spent an hour reminiscing. Kevin congratulated him on his stellar career, but before he hung up the phone, Kevin reminded Dick, I just want you to know you were 3-12 lifetime against me. Kevin might be the most competitive man I've ever met. When his little brother Donnie was coaching at Gonzaga, he boasted that he thought his middies were better than preps. Kevin Colt told him to go home and break his crack pipe. Kevin is demanding of himself, his assistants, and his players. Our first Fogo, Alex Abularach, was banged up going into a big game. After breaking a finger, he had tweaked his hamstring in practice. He reported his injuries to Coach Giblin and told Kevin that he wouldn't be able to play the next day. Kevin stopped, stared at him for at least 10 seconds. Dick Butkus ate nails for breakfast. And he walked away. Alex played the next day. Kevin takes pride in the extensive planning that goes into each practice. About 8 a.m., an email goes around to all the coaches asking what the team needs to work on. During lunch, Kevin sends out a rough draft and asks for any comments from the coaching staff. After much revision, Kevin makes 10 hard copies and distributes them to the coaches as soon as he gets to practice. In the 17 years I've coached with Kevin Giblin, we've never made it through 15 minutes of the schedule. We jokingly refer to it as script and scrap. In the movie Patton, a reporter finds a Bible next to the general's bed. He asks the general if he finds time to read the good book each day. Patton replies, "Yes, I do. Every goddamn day." Similarly, Kevin starts every practice with a decade of the rosary. 40 boys take off their helmets and kneel together to pray every day. If the coaches ever forget, the boys always remind us. The rosary is a prep tradition. Nonetheless, the first F-bomb is usually only minutes away. Kevin is large, he contains multitudes. But Kevin's greatest strength is his ability to think big. At heart, Kevin is a dreamer. He's always seen the big picture and beyond. I remember back in 1993, when Matt Hahn had just finished his junior year. Matt was a great player on an average team. I think that year we lost to good counsel 1-0. Kevin filled out his recruiting form and he wrote about Matt Hahn in capital letters, "Will be a 2-time All-American." I stared at him. This young coach was staking his reputation on Matt Hahn. All the college coaches shied away, and Matt ended up at the University of Maryland, where he was a 3-time All-American. But Kevin's life is a war against mediocrity. He polices the world for the sin of being ham and egg, or H&E. How successful has he been? In 1988, the lacrosse team started with 24 balls. Today, every coach starts with a full bag of 100 balls. Then, Kevin had to line the lacrosse field himself, and rarely was it ever cut. Today, we play on a $500,000 sport turf field. In his second year, Kevin coached the JV and the varsity by himself. Today, we have 15 coaches on a bad day. The team used to wear the JV football jerseys. Today, we are sponsored by Under Armour. Before Kevin arrived at Georgetown Prep, the team went 5-6. We've now won our conference 3 of the last 4 years, and Prep has finished #1 in the nation twice. Kevin saw this 20 years ago. Kevin dreamed this. Kevin has given his life to this sport. Kevin Giblin is Georgetown Prep Lacrosse, and that's why we honor him tonight. Ladies and gentlemen, Kevin Giblin.
You got big shoes to follow. Thanks, Cubes. I've prepared a written speech and I'll piecemeal around, but that's why I didn't want Cubes to present me, because it's hard to follow. Many of you probably don't know this, but I am kind of a spiritual guy. I just have to follow him out. First of all, I want to thank the Potomac chapter for this great honor. I'm proud and humbled and to accept the recognition as a member of the Potomac Lacrosse Hall of Fame. As I pondered what to speak about this evening, one thought kept coming to my mind, and it's the old adage, a man is judged by the company he keeps. And nothing could be more accurate. While this honor may have my name on it, it reflects the dedication of individuals who have coached and helped shape my career as a player, a coach, and a person. I'm accepting this honor, but I am standing on the shoulders of those players, coaches, and family members who have given me the strength and encouragement over the years and along the way. From my high school playing days, I'd be remiss if I didn't thank my high school coach, Jimmy Shreve, and Keith Reitenbach for introducing the game to me. I have some good buddies here, Mike Talbot, who played high school ball with me, Phil Kane, who was our high school goalie, Tommy DiBenedetto, and some other guys I played high school ball with. I also want to thank a special thanks to Terry Corcoran, who for giving me a second chance at Washington College. A funny story is, he called my house recruiting me, and I answered the phone, and he said, "Is Kevin Giblin there?" And I said, "No." And he said, "Oh, can you tell him Terry Corcoran from Washington College called?" And I said, "Oh, this is him." He goes, why didn't you answer for that?" I said, "They're trying to serve me with a summons." So I learned the game from one of the best. You know, Terry Corcoran taught me everything about the game, from the X's and O's to being passionate about it. And I have great gratitude for his continued friendship and taking a chance on a guy from upstate New York at Washington College. And it was at Washington College that I was fortunate enough to play with some of the best guys a teammate could ask for. And many of them are here tonight. Rick Soule was a teammate and a roommate of mine for years. Steve Bevel, Greg Baker, John Nostrand, Tommy Gaines, Eric Garenswald, Bob Tutela, Ricky Cody. These guys are my friends to this day. We talk routinely on the phone. And they were great teammates, and they're still great friends of mine. The fun continued with the club guys I played with. Not only did I play with Bakes and Soley, but Mark Altimus and Eddie McMahon and Brad Kotz, Neil all these guys. We played a lot of club ball around the area, and it was the most fun. Going to Vail, Lake Placid, the Ocean City tournaments. You know, special mention of the Grey Ghost team. We played some summer ball over in Virginia for Fat Tuesdays, and Denny Stewart jumped in a goal one time, and you know, just so much fun being a player. But I think most of what I'm here for is probably as my coaching. And my coaching career certainly has had its challenges, uphill climbs and incredible successes of late. After my one-year stint at Georgetown University, of which I was fired at halftime of the Dartmouth game. Bakes. I was fired at halftime of the Dartmouth game. Reinstated by midway third quarter. And then I coached a year at St. Albans, and had Gene Wines there tonight, and I coached Gene in high school. I found a home at Georgetown Prep. It was only fitting that I coached, as they call it, the creator's game at a Jesuit school. The sport we call lacrosse comes from a French Jesuit priest, Saint John Brebeuf, who named it. And his mission as a French Jesuit was to go to the New World, North America, and to teach the symbols of the Catholic faith to the natives there. And upon watching his first game, the Hurons were playing, it reminded him of the bishop's staff, so he called it lacrosse. And hence we have the game of lacrosse that we call it now. That's my Jesuit connection. But at the time, prep was a program truly in its infancy, and I really think some at the school thought it was ultimate frisbee. And that the guy coaching it would eventually go away. Well, that didn't happen. From that starting point, the success of the program has achieved has been tremendous, to say the least. We've been ranked in the top 10 of the Post since the poll started. We've been ranked 12 times in the top 20 of the country, a couple #1 rankings in the state, and a couple #1 rankings in the country. So it's been fun, and the satisfaction of watching this program and the athletes grow has been tremendous. Again, I've been inspired by the company that I've kept during my run at Georgetown Prep. I'm not sure where to start, but here it goes. The efforts of all the supportive parents, many of whom are here tonight, and there are many. The people at Georgetown Prep, particularly Dan Perro, Father George, Father Galvin, Joel Spelta, Pat Knowles, all great guys to work with at Georgetown Prep. Modern day folks, I could not have done this without the support of a great friend of mine, Ned Williams and Chris Abel, allowing me to get out of school a little bit early to go coach games and stuff like that. I'm indebted to them. My parents, my dad has passed away, but my 82-year-old mother is sitting over here looking beautiful. 81. You know, I have to thank Karen, Liam, Colin, Dempsey, Cormac for putting up with me every spring. From the coaching standpoint, I must thank and give praise to the assistants, because they're truly the guys that have made this program what it is today. There have been many assistant coaches who have dedicated their time and energy to the kids in the program. And I wish I had the time and better the memory to thank all of them. I do thank them for their time and efforts, and there have been many. Over 40 different guys have coached in the program on 3 different levels for the betterment of the sport of lacrosse at Georgetown Prep, and I'm sincerely grateful to them. There are a few guys I must single out for their efforts. The guys currently on the staff, John Dugan, Jim Keegan, John Paleologos, Brendan Dowd, Mark Mickham, Brian Carroll, my brother Don, have helped bring us to new heights recently. The recent successes are built on the shoulders of those who came before them. But the following guys have transcended the everyday dedication of an assistant. One, I might get choked up here. One is Brendan Kelly. He's been part of the program for 15 years, 4 as a player, and the last 11 as a coach. He has given his all to the program, and his dedication is a thing of beauty. He truly, truly thinks of others first and gives to these kids. And the other is Mike Cuban, who just presented me. You know, he's a guy who's been part of the program from its infancy. When it was a club team in '85 and '86, he played on the first varsity team in '87, and after a stint at Duke and Stanford getting his master's, and then he worked a year for my brother Don at Gonzaga and learned nothing. He has been there every step of the way. He's the yin, I'm the yang, or vice versa. I cannot articulate my words properly to emphasize my sincere gratitude for his efforts. He will be sorely missed this spring, as I'm sure Coach Bordley is loving. I have to thank the other coaches in the area, Dick Long, who Mike mentioned, Malcolm Lester, Mark St. Germain, Pete Gill, and Mike Delgrand, and particularly Rob Bordley and the Landon teams for providing the competition and help driving our area to the mainstream of high school scene. Many thanks and appreciation to the officials that I've tested over the years, particularly Brian Poole and Homer Schwartz, Paul St. Germain, Bill Frades, and the late, great Tom Shekels. I want to thank all the players for giving their dedication to the program and believing in a dream that we had and it started 20 years ago. Yes, a man is judged by the company he keeps. I've had some great company along the way, and they've helped define me as a player, a coach, and a person. They helped drive me to success. With their help, I now have the honor of being judged by the company I keep with the individuals of Potomac Hall of Fame. Not bad company either. Of course, the best company I keep is with my wife, Karen, who has always had my back. Thank you, honey, I love you. It's a fine line remaining humble in the light of this great honor from Potomac Hall of Fame, but I'm both honored and humbled by this tremendous award, and I thank you all for helping me along the way.
All right. Well, how we follow that? Take some time. Well, I will tell you that I talked to Mike Kubik this week. I wanted to get a little bit of information on some of the presenters, and I did not know Mike. So I got his cell phone number and I gave him a call, and we had a nice conversation. At the end of it, he said, well, you know, how long should I speak? And do you think I should do more like Kevin's record and all of the, you know, all of his wins and losses and that kind of thing, or more personal? I said, you know, all the wins and losses and stuff, I think a lot of people know that and it's in the program. I said, so I think people would appreciate more of a personal touch, you know, if you have any kind of funny stories. And he said, oh yeah. I've got some stories. Right there, I should have known we were in trouble. That was great. Thanks, Mike. Thanks, Kevin. Okay, our next inductee. Another good friend of mine who I've known from way, way back in the days of Fairfax County's beginnings, both she and her presenter. Our next inductee is Michelle Maxwell-Gold. Now, Michelle's presenter, she played her high school lacrosse on Long Island and went on to play in college at Ohio Wesleyan. She now teaches health and physical education at Edison High School in Fairfax County. And along with Michelle, she's one of the pioneers of girls lacrosse in Fairfax County, growing those programs from club teams to varsity level, and started the program at Edison. She stepped down from coaching a while ago with a very good reason. She's the mother of 2 sets of twins. She continues to teach full-time at Edison and is also the assistant athletic director, so something had to go there, and I'm sure she's turned the program off to a capable new coach there at Edison. She went through a lot to get here tonight. I have to tell people this. Poor Amy. She's leaving the house and one of the twins throws up on her. So she has to go in and totally change her pants. She's speeding up Route 50 because now she's behind schedule and the Maryland State Police pull her over and give her a ticket. And she's not a block from the University Club and somebody runs into her car. And she had to have her car towed. And despite all of that, she is here tonight to present Michelle. Ladies and gentlemen,
I never said I was very smart. I couldn't pass up an open bar with lacrosse peeps anyway. I'd first like to say congratulations to the 6 inductees. What a wonderful honor you have all earned. I think I can speak for everyone in this room when I say we're all very proud of you. I'm here to brag about my friend Michelle Maxwell-Gold right over here. She's a crazy lady. I'm not going to tell you about how she started from scratch, one of the most feared high school girls lacrosse programs in Virginia, public school. I'm not going to tell you about her stellar coaching career, which includes back-to-back Virginia State titles. She beat us by 1 in the semis. I don't even want to discuss how she has held every leadership position of each girls lacrosse organization and committee in the Northern Virginia area. I'm not going to tell you either about her countless hours she devoted to Excel Lacrosse, known now as Advantage. I won't bring up her subtle and quiet, not to mention classy coaching style that will outbeat all others every time. But what I will tell you about is Michelle's never-ending job of introducing, spreading, strengthening, and fine-tuning high school girls lacrosse in Virginia's public schools. That is, of course, not to say that she hasn't contributed to the private school programs as well. You see, Michelle repeatedly did all these jobs, committees, and tasks when no one else would, and she did them with a smile on her face. Her elbow grease is why Northern Virginia public and private school girls are currently on U.S. team rosters. I'm not even going to mention all the All-Americans and the college scholarships that can be directly attributed to Michelle's hard work and dedication. Her passion has made her cut above the rest. Everyone who is familiar with DC area girls lacrosse will not just know of Michelle, they will work beside her. Michelle didn't just delegate jobs, she was in the trenches doing them. On a personal note, I met Michelle 15 years ago when I first moved here, through a phone call soliciting me to volunteer to do clinics and coach with Excel Lacrosse. So who is this crazy upstater? I'm from Long Island. There's no bond there. I'm thrilled to say that I've had the pleasure to work with her for many years. We even traveled to Florida together and bridged the gap. Not only because I enjoy her as a person, but also because she's an outstanding coaching role model who simply inspires others to go the extra mile. For that, I thank you, Michelle. And I only hope that my daughter Abby, who's crazy, will have a coach like you when she grows up. Michelle, Centerville and Northern Virginia Girls Lacrosse Association did realize how lucky they were to have you as the backbone of lacrosse. You are truly missed. This is a well-deserving and obvious honor you are receiving tonight. You're a perfect example of why everyone in this room loves the sport of lacrosse. We all love it not just because it's a great game, but because of the great people who play the game. Michelle Maxwell-Gold.
That's what I do best. Okay. I'm very honored to be inducted in the Hall of Fame, and I thank Amy for that wonderful introduction. As many inductees before, I'm going to accept this award on behalf of all the coaches, friends, and family that worked with me to promote the growth of lacrosse in Northern Virginia and aided me in meeting my personal accomplishments that I achieved at Centerville High School. I couldn't have contributed to the growth of lacrosse in this area without their assistance. Lacrosse is a wonderful game. It has history and a unique appeal that lures players in. I just got your glasses, I gotta look down here. It has speed, excitement, lots of scoring to keep the players wanting more. It requires teamwork, which builds bonds and friendships that last a lifetime. If you're around the game long enough, then you'll become part of the lacrosse family, our family, the members that keep giving of their time and love for this awesome sport. Lacrosse in Northern Virginia has grown a lot in the 17 years that I coached. When I first joined the Robinson coaching staff, there were only 5 other teams in our league. Those were the years when you kept everyone that wanted to play, even if that added up to 36 players on JV and 22 players on varsity. It's kind of tough getting those 36 all in the game, but we managed. I'm grateful to Sharon Toy, the Robinson head coach, who shared coaching strategies and lots of laugh while teaching the basics of lacrosse. With the support of our boosters, led by 2006 inductee Bill Bayfield, we hosted the President's Day preseason clinic at South Run. We would invite and draw players from all our opponents' teams. It was all about sharing the knowledge and spreading the excitement of the game. We had public and private school coaches presenting at the clinic. This initial connection with the private schools would lead to future games. We would measure our seasonal success not on wins and losses, but how well we improved against Holton Arms and St. Stephen's and St. Agnes. I owe Kim Hutcherson and Kathy Jenkins for their patience as we slowly became worthy opponents. I enjoyed being a part of this initial growth period. The next big growth spurt came with the approval of varsity status in 1993 by the Northern Virginia schools. I accepted the head coaching position at Centerville High School. There was a lot of work to do, and this became quite clear to me when I got hit in the head with a ball the second practice of my first season. With the help of my JV coach, Ginny Baum, we taught skills, developed strategies, and built a program. Big thanks go out to Kathy Beatty, who motivated and helped coach while I started my own family. During the 4 years that I delivered and started to raise my 3 children, she helped me develop our team and earn 2 state championships. I have a lot of great memories from my coaching years at Centerville. The most exciting season was in 1999 when we battled hard to earn every win and losing only to 1 team. 3 years of spring break trips to Florida and repeating state championships in 2000 and 2001 was a lot of fun. I'm sure everyone would agree that traveling with 22 high school girls and 2 toddlers sounds like a vacation in heaven. The most rewarding moment of my coaching career occurred when I received an email from Diana Tysinger, a 1999 Centerville graduate who went on to play college lacrosse. After playing her first season, she informed me through email that she finally understood what I meant when I talked about loving the game of lacrosse. My message to the girls had always been, play it, love it, and help the sport to grow. My lacrosse family continued to grow throughout the years. I learned a lot from working with great coaches at clinics, camps, and national team tryouts. Building friendships with fellow coaches in the Northern Virginia League that were in it for the long haul meant a lot to me. One acquaintance got me digging in my own family history. Coach Tom Tufts knew my dad from their college years. I have to point out, he's 4 years younger than my dad, so he always told me that. They didn't play together, they near each other. But they played at UMass with Coach Dick Garber, fabulous man, wonderful lacrosse coach. As a kid, I'd seen the old wooden stick in the garage, but didn't start asking questions until I met Tom. Come to find out, my dad, Bill Maxwell, had earned honorable mention All-American honors in the late 1950s. I didn't know my dad. My roots ran deep in lacrosse history, and I didn't even know it until I was well in my 20s. Finally, I want to thank my family for always supporting me while I was coaching, running tryouts, and going to meetings. Thank you to David Gold, my husband, for all his solo parenting on game nights. Thank you to my 3 brothers, Bill, Dan, and Russ, and my wonderful sister-in-law, Tony, who traveled a long way to get here tonight to continue to support me in my sports life. My deepest appreciation is for my parents, who can't be here this evening. They taught me the importance of understanding the whole game, helping others to improve, finding the good in all the final scores, wins or losses, and rewards gained by good sportsmanship. Their encouragement will be remembered and cherished for my whole life. Thank you for giving me this time to share with you.
I mean, who knew that Michelle's father is playing with Tom Tufts? I mean, it's amazing. The more people you talk to, the more connections you find like that. It really is amazing. Okay, our next inductee this evening is going to be Miss Jen Adams. Now a little bit about Jen's presenter tonight. She played her high school lacrosse at Mount Hebron. Yes? Okay. She went on to a stellar career at the University of Maryland, including being named the MVP of the 1998 NCAA tournament, and she was named All-American twice. She's continued her career as an assistant coach with Cindy Timshaw when her playing days were over at the University of Maryland. She then headed west to the University of Denver and was the head coach there for 3 years, winning conference Coach of the Year honors last year. She's now returned to her alma mater as the new head coach and has the distinction, and she and Jen may be the only 2 with this distinction. They've won the national championships, the NCAA national championships 7 times. 4 times as players, 3 times as coaches. Ladies and gentlemen, Kathy Nelson-Reed.
Hi, it is my pleasure to be here tonight to introduce to you someone very special to me, Jen Adams. I have been fortunate to know Jen through several different stages of her life. We were teammates at Maryland, and then I was an assistant coach during 3 years of her college career. We have coached together for 5 years, currently at the University of Maryland, and we run a business called Elevate Lacrosse, in which we host camps and clinics across the country. When Jen arrived on the University of Maryland's campus in January of 1998, the new girl from down under had no idea about the journey she was going to take over the next few years. Starting with the first day of practice, Jen began to make her mark on Maryland women's lacrosse. Her accomplishments over her collegiate playing years have dotted the record books. In addition to winning 4 national championships, she holds several NCAA records, was a 3-time All-American, and a 3-time NCAA Player of the Year. Her awards go on and on. The Tewaaraton, the Hondo World, All-World Team, each and every award she richly deserves. I was fortunate to have had the opportunity to play the 1998 season with Jen. When she arrived in the U.S. in January of that year, she had no idea what was ahead. From trying to find her way around Maryland's campus, to seeing snow for the first time, to running her first set of sprints at practice, Jen managed to take it in stride. I was a senior when she was a freshman, and she was someone who I admired from the day I met. Jen is unselfish, encouraging, positive, and makes those around her look and feel good. She leads by example, and her teammates mean everything to her. In any interview she's ever done, which has been quite a few, she's always credited her success to her teammates. She's an outstanding athlete who I'm glad I had the chance to play with. I would consider Jen to be the best women's player to ever play the game. Her stick skills are the best I have seen, and she has such an understanding for the game of lacrosse. She's always coming up with something new to keep games and practices exciting. Over spring break, when Jen was a senior, the coaches showed up to practice, and there she was, in her bathing suit, with cleats on the end line, her mouth guard in, lacrosse stick in her hand, doing sprints with the team. Now that's making the most out of a spring break in College Park, I'd say. She has fun and makes the most out of every opportunity. Jen and I have coached together for 5 years, and I continue to learn from her every day. She's an excellent teacher of the game and adapts her presentations and skills to meet every level that she works with. More importantly, she cares about her players as people and challenges them to excel in the classroom as well as on the field. Not only are they her athletes to coach, but they are people to mentor. It is important to her to see her players do well in all areas of their lives, to maintain a healthy balance and enjoy life. In addition to coaching college lacrosse, she is constantly helping to promote the game by running camps and clinics with Elevate Lacrosse and representing STX at events throughout the country. She's a role model for all the little girls out there. They all wear their hair like Jen in a little pigtail nubs, and they line up whenever they can to get her autograph. For as great of a player and coach as Jen is, she is an even better friend. I feel very fortunate to have someone this loyal, caring, supportive, and honest in my life. Jen, you're an amazing person, and your friendship is precious to my family and I. Congratulations on this tremendous honor. Your friends and family are very proud.
First of all, it was a very tasteful speedo. I'm actually going to read my speech because I didn't get a lot of time to practice it because I went to the JT concert last night. But Kathy, thank you so much for your very kind words. When I was first asked who I would like to present me tonight, it was really a no-brainer. There is no other person who knows me as well, for better or worse, than you, Kathy. You are such an inspirational mentor and an even better friend to me. Speaking of friends, thank you to those of you that have come out tonight, giving up a big Saturday night, to support me in sharing this special occasion. You're all so special to me, and I would never be where I was today without you. I must also make mention of Pat Dillon, Sandy Worth, and Homer Schwartz, who have kept me in line and organized throughout the lead up to this event, which is not an easy task, and you've done a fabulous job. Thank you to the Potomac chapter for bestowing me with this amazing honor. I am truly humbled but excited to be considered amongst such distinguished inductees, both past and present. This is a first-class event, and I couldn't be happier to be part of it. When Pat Dillon first called me regarding this tremendous honor, something very unusual happened. Well, at first, I was just relieved that I wasn't in trouble. Secondly, I was speechless. Yes, I, Jen Adams, was at a total loss for words. Now, this doesn't happen very often, and most never in the presence of an official. Truthfully, this is not something I would have ever considered, especially not at the ripe old age of 27. I had always wrongly assumed that Hall of Fames were for the more veteran and worldly patrons of our sport. After I got off the phone to Pat, I sat for a moment to take it all in. I concluded that this typified my lacrosse career thus far. I'm constantly spellbound by how amazingly perfect my lacrosse script has been written. Every day I wake up and I pinch myself because I can't believe how lucky I have been. Lucky to have grown up in Australia, where the Vegemite and the sunshine are plentiful, to have played for the Brighton Bombers, the best club in the best country in the world, where I stepped onto the field and learned my love for the sport. I have the very best family that anyone could ever ask for. My family are so supportive, positive, and they always encourage me to chase my dreams, even when they land me thousands of miles away. I'm lucky to have the chance to come over to the US and play for the mighty Terps. It was here that I got to step on the field each day with a group of girls so talented that I often found myself watching a practice or game in awe. I was probably out of breath too, but this group of girls became so much more than my teammates. They have become my most trusted friends, and to use a mere handful, I always needed them more than they have ever needed me. I also had the chance to play for the most incredible lineup of coaches in Cindy Timshaw, Gary Gate, and Kathy Nelson-Reese. Talk about lucky. Oh, of course, I got to boost up the old jewelry collection when I was here too. I was lucky to have joined the fabulous folks at STX, who with many hours of Photoshop have transformed me, the ugly swan, into poster-worthy. STX allows me to get out in the community, running clinics, and spending time with our youth. I mean, don't tell them this, but I would have done it for free. Lucky to be able to do what I love for a living. I go to College Park every day and get to work with the best coaches and players, passing on my passion and knowledge of the game. I get to shape these young adult lives, and occasionally they even listen to me. Lucky to spend all summer on the camp circuit with mine and Kathy's company, Elevate Lacrosse. Yes, shameless plug again. Nothing excites me more than seeing the smile light up a little girl's face the first time she picks up a lacrosse stick or scores her first goal. Let me tell you, that makes the sleepless nights, the dorm food, and all those horrible tan lines all worth it. Lucky to be here tonight and honored into the Potomac Chapter Hall of Fame. Lucky, you see, because to me, I've done nothing special or extraordinary. I've just played, coached, and loved being part of this amazing sport. So before my life runs out and I turn into a pumpkin or something, I want to thank you all for adding another memorable chapter into my fairy tale of a lacrosse life. Thank you so much and have a great night. And hey, Jen, I was just kidding about that STX stuff.
The other nice thing about a local chapter Hall of Fame like ours is that we don't have to follow the rules that the National Hall of Fame follows. We are allowed to induct people who are still in their 20s, especially when they're as prolific a lacrosse scorer and player as Jen Adams. And the fact that she stood up here and deflected all the credit to all her teammates, that's not an act, that truly is Jen. So we are more than happy and proud to induct you tonight. I don't care how old you are. So, and the other thing is, Jen was told, you know, what should I say tonight? They said, you know, Jen, you can stand up there with that Australian accent. You can pretty much say anything you want. Everybody's just going to be hanging on your every word and think it's great because you said it with an Australian accent, but it was very nice. Okay, our next inductee, Mr. Dave Slafkosky. Dave's presenter played his high school lacrosse at, help me, Dundalk. That's what I thought. Baltimore County, he's a Dundalk guy. All right. He went on to play in college at Towson State, my alma mater. Go Tigers. Coached for combined 29 seasons with stays at the University of Baltimore, Army, and the University of Maryland. During his playing days, he was a two-time All-American. During his coaching career, he was 5-time ACC Coach of the Year and 2-time National Coach of the Year. In addition to being in our Hall of Fame, he's also a member of the National Lacrosse Hall of Fame. We could go on and on about all his accomplishments. I'll just end by saying he's known to one and all as Big Man. Mr. Dick Adele.
Thank you.
Use your coach voice.
Thank you. Can you get me in the back, Billy?
A little bit louder, Dave.
Huh?
A little bit louder.
I just talked, yeah.
Mike, we had to pull the music out just to keep up to your act there. And I think the title of the song basically tells it like it is, leadership and what I'm going to do for the next couple of minutes. Before I get into that, hey Pat, you got to back off a little bit because I think you may end up, Homer may never get that microphone back. You're doing a great job. We're honoring Dave Slafkosky tonight for over 30 years of outstanding coaching. And for 25 of those years, I had an unobstructed view of watching him in action. And when you think back to Slav's days as a player, you really shouldn't be surprised that he became such a successful coach because he played for two of the greatest mentors in the game. At high school, at St. Mary's High School, it was the late C. Mason Russell, known to one and all as Dak. Truly one of the best high school coaches in history. Then when it became time for college, and tonight I have to share something with you that really not a whole lot of people know. When Dave graduated from St. Mary's High School and it came time to make a college choice, his first choice was the University of Maryland. And he was rejected. And his mom and dad made him go to his safe school, Johns Hopkins. Seriously, at Johns Hopkins, Slaf had a chance to play for them, and I know this thought is in the minds of many others besides myself, the greatest college coach that's ever lived, Bob Scott. And Dave learned well from both of these mentors. You know, over a career that spanned 3 decades, he's done virtually everything. He's coached the offense, he's coached the defense, he's done the goalies, he's worked with the face-off men, clearing and riding. The only thing he can't touch is recruiting, because he's too damn honest. and he learned well. His tremendous work ethic, his knowledge of the sport, his sense of humor, and his ability and his desire to his ability to adapt as both the sport and the people that play it change have served him well. Over 300 victories, 9 Final Fours, 3 national championship games, and he's never, ever coached a losing season. But if you know Dave, if you've been coached by Dave, or if you coached with Dave, you know that Dave Slafkosky isn't about numbers. Everything that he achieved being a consistent, positive role model for the players that played for him, treating every player on that team the same. The superstar is equal to the sub. Should have written it down. Good time. And when your career at Maryland ends, or your career playing for Slop ends, your relationship with Dave Slafkosky only begins. And as you look around this room here tonight, you see several living examples of that. Dave, since the day I've met him, has considered himself just an ordinary guy. Tonight, we salute an ordinary guy who's had an extraordinary career. Already a Hall of Fame husband, father, and friend, I present to you a Hall of Fame coach.
Sure hard to follow you, Dick. I've been doing it for a long time. I'd like to thank the Potomac chapter. Especially Pat Sandy Worth, long friend in the University of Maryland. Father Pat McCardle. It's a private joke. And Homer. Homer, I'm kind of confused. I thought you are the Potomac chapter. I'm so honored to be in this class with you. Thank you. Secondly, I have a ton of individuals I'd like to thank tonight. But first and foremost, I'd like to thank my family. My wife, Michelle, my Sarah, Kevin, and Alex. The Lacrosse family struggles because their dad's away. We're away because we're working hard, trying to win games. Try to have winning seasons. I got a great family. I'm gonna thank them twice. That's the first time. I'd like to thank 6 coaches now. Dick, you beat me already. I don't think there's 4 people in this room who know Daffy Russell. And that's a shame, you know that. I know Coach Scott knows Daffy. He was a great man. Daffy wanted toughness. You had to be a tough young man to play for Daffy Russell. But he'd pick you up and hug you. He'd do anything for you. He was a Hall of Famer. Coach has already told me. I was very lucky to play for him. Secondly, I played for, again, Dick beat me, one of the best, is the best college coach. And I was lucky to go to Johns Hopkins. I think it was my second choice. ask me all the time, you work at Maryland for 23 years, and you got a Johns Hopkins. What the heck's going on? And it is a conundrum that I have to deal with. Going back to Bob Scott, I got to play 3 years for him. Back then, we had freshman team, so I didn't play for Bob. And played for somebody else, and then sophomore, junior, and senior got the chance to play for 3 great teams. Now, if you look at our program, if you read the Maryland program every year, it says that Dave Slafkosky leads the 1974 Blue Jays to the championship. Now, it says it. It's in that program. It's in that program. In fact, there's a gentleman here tonight who really led the team, a great friend of mine, Jack Thomas. I always tell people I do a great invitation at camps that you're looking at this body. Well, when I was in college, I was 6'2", 225. Hopkins at the time were given a lot of steroids. Coach Scott didn't know about it. It was candy. We had them all the time, so I was 6'2", 225. Now the problem is you're looking at the body when you stop taking those steroids. The only person who loves this body is Michelle Slafkosky. Getting back to Bob Scott. Scotty is a class man. I'm in coaching today because I played for Bob Scott. Because of what he did and how he treated his players, that showed me a lot. And it gave me the lessons that I needed to become the coach I am. Thanks a lot, Scott. I appreciate it. Next 2 coaches are also Potomac Hall of Famers. One I'm going to call General Tom Tufts. You might ask why you call him General Tom Tufts. When you were a private, you call him General Private Tom Tufts. When I first started at West Point in 1975, you're looking at Private Dave Slafkosky with a Johns Hopkins degree. I was wrong. I should have gone back. The first coach I worked with is General Tom Tufts. And to tell you the truth, I didn't do a whole lot. I sat on the sidelines, and Tommy would talk to me. That was nice. I really thought he would tell us what we were doing, and I stayed way in the background and listened to him. But I thought it was nice that Tom talked to me. He left West Point 6 months later, came back into my life 15 years ago, and Tommy and I still call up and do X's and O's and talk. And I appreciate that, Tom. When do I have to stop calling you General, though? Second high school coach that I'm going to talk about is also a Potomac Hall of Fame. His name is Rob Borg. Rob came to practice 20 years ago, Dick. I think you remember. And he watched our practice. And after practice, he came up to Dick and I and said, "You didn't do a whole lot of riding out there. What is your ride?" The coach said, "Nobody rides in college." So Rob Morley went back and he rode and rode and rode. And for the next 10 years, if you played Landon's team, they were the toughest team in the country to clear. He's called me up. I don't know why he's asking me questions. We sat down, talked X and O's. He's a man I really respect. Does a great job. And I'm proud, Rob, that I'm in this Hall of Fame with you. Also, Rob and his wife Donna did something special. They gave us his son to play for Maryland for 4 years. Having JR on that team and get to see Rob Borley a few more times was a pleasant. Rob, I think, same with you, Don. I was going in the chronological order, but I'm gonna stop right now because I don't wanna, I'll deal with the big man in a minute. I didn't get the head coaching job at Maryland after Dick left, and I gave it to Cox. So I thought my career at Maryland was gonna be over in about 6 months. That's when my contract was going. So Dave came on and said, hey, let's see what happens. Well, it's been 5.5 years, and I must be doing something right. And I've learned, Dave, 2 things. One, maybe that wasn't said wrong. I've learned a lot of things from Dave. It's been a pleasure to work with Dave Cottle. Dave Cottle makes you work, all right? And I thought I knew a lot in 2001. I'll tell you the truth, I did. That's all right. I became a lot better coach working with Dave Cottle, and I thank you, David. I really do. My family thanks you. Also for the last 5.5 years. The 6th coach, of course, is Dave. Again, you guys don't believe this stuff, but I was forced on Dave. I think that's happened all my career. Again, I told you I was a private. Well, I was a private, had a 3-year commitment with the U.S. Army. And I only worked 1.5 years with Albazano, and that's when Dick Adele shows up. And shows you how desperate Dick was to take the job and take me on. But really, that's been 25 great years, Coach. I know I can't say enough about working with you. You're a big brother I never had. You're my best friend. How lucky could I be? I spent a lot of times with you. My wife was always questioning that. We would share rooms. Let me tell you, you don't want to share a room with this guy. We're in Cortland, New York in early March, and he has the air conditioner going as hard as I can. Dick, I can't steal your brother. He also showed me the X's and O's aren't the most important thing. It's what you have in your heart and your toughness. Good fundamentals will always overcome. Thanks, Steve. And thanks for Dolores. Where is she? I love her. The better half. I'd like to thank all the Army and Turf Slashers who endured my screams and gestations over the last 32 years. Koch does a pretty good imitation of my sideline of coaching antics. I'm told that other undergraduates and graduates do it also. There's 4 Army guys sitting in this audience. I'd like to say a brief. One is Scott Finley, the best crease attackman at the University, at United States Military Academy in our careers, and a leading scorer when we left. One of the toughest kids ever wore a West Point jersey. The other thing about him is if you get Dick and Dell and Scott Finley in the same room, you'd be amazed of the trivia those 2 men know. Is it worth anything? Dolores doesn't think so. Thanks, Ben. We have 3 others. Dennis Chopper Lambert from Plano, Texas. Also Yorktown. We have Kenny Dial, Colonel Kenny Dial. Gentlemen, ladies, I worked 8 years at West Point. I would have bet every penny in my pocket, and it only was a private salary, that Kenny Dial wasn't staying at West Point. If he makes a pass, we had bets for that first plebe son, and he is now a full colonel looking at general, I think, someday. Thank you, Ken. And Billy Sardell, from upstate New York, now living in God's country in Frederick, Maryland. My 23 years with Maryland lacrosse can't be capsized in one paragraph. There were many assistant coaches. I'm not going to go through them all. I'd like to thank Andy Copeland right back there, the newest one, for dealing with me and the craziness that I am. Thanks, Andy. There's too many players to try to single out completely. I appreciate your effort. I wish you and your families only the best. I never forget you, and your presence here overwhelms me. That leads me back to the group I started. Michelle, my wife of 27 plus. I can't begin to tell you how much you meant to me and our family. Sarah, Kevin, and Alex all know you are the rock, the cement, the glue of our family. Can't begin to thank you. Sarah, Kevin, and Alex are three wonderful reasons why you should have a family. And thanks for your support. I don't want to forget or ignore our Dan. He is here sitting with us tonight, laughing louder than anyone else. I still picture him on the sidelines of Carolina when Michael Monahan in the back corner there had a stick fake with another friend, beautiful fake, faked me out on the sidelines, and then goes and throws a pass behind his back in the cage. And my son, who's a Marine, up from Lejeune, we caught him on the film. And that Sunday, we were watching the film, I was studying the film, and I'm watching Mike's great shot, and there's Dan. Just going nuts. And we showed it in practice the next couple of days. That there we go. There's Dan, and all the kids on the team were done. And that was more important than Mike's play. My Dan loved Maryland lacrosse. He loved lacrosse. He loved Maryland. My family will keep him in our hearts in that special place. Again, thanks for this honor. It means a lot to this average lacrosse player who dedicated over 30 years to this sport. Thank you.
Follow these great speeches, I'm telling you. Well, as you've heard, we do have a true legend of the sport here with us tonight, Coach Bob Scott over there. And as you've heard, Bob is a legendary, longtime, highly successful coach at that other university, Johns Hopkins. I must confess that when I first got back into the sport of lacrosse, I played in college and then was away from the game for about 10 years. I got back into the sport, and part of that was going to watch the women's games at the University of Maryland. Kind of get my feet wet, get back into it, see what it was all about. And I met a lot of the parents of the players, including Bob and Margot. So I first knew Bob Scott simply as father of Nancy Scott, who was a tremendous defensive player on the University of Maryland women's team. This is kind of a neat connection, and it's interesting how there is that connection between the men's game, the women's game, all in this big lacrosse family. Who knew? He's such a humble guy, such an unassuming man, that he was the icon in the men's game. When I met him, he was simply Nancy Scott's father. So, the other reason we're having Bob here tonight and having him come up and speak, because we can do that because it's our chapter Hall of Fame, we can do whatever we want, is the fact that Bob coached both Dave and our next inductee, Homer Schwartz. Now, Bob is not going to be presenting Homer, that's going to come next, but we really do want to have Bob come up and say a few words. We have warned him about this, so this is not a off the cuff.
I will admit that Dave Slafkosky's grades at St. Mary's School of Annapolis were a little shaky. He took the SATs one time. Dave take them again, and he got 1475 on the SATs, and he got into JHU. You get all this legend stuff when you get to be an old timer. I'm close, Grandma. I do remember Tom Strohar, who was one of our all-time great players, but he was back and a few years before I came along at Hopkins. But I am very pleased to be here tonight to congratulate the inductees. You have a great group of people getting into your Hall of Fame, and in particular my two boys, Homer Schwartz and Dave Slafkosky. As a coach, you really aren't supposed to have favorites, and we all know that. And I felt, that was the route that I always went, never had favorites. But I must say that both Homer and David were two very special people to me when they played at Hopkins and as they moved on after they got out of the school. Homer played on the varsity team in 1962, 3, and 4. In 62, he ran on the first midfield with Henry Ciccarone. Chick was a first-team All-American, leading scorer in the midfield, led the team with ground balls. Homer, right behind him. He was the number 2 guy on our team with ground balls, and he was an honorable mention All-American that year. The next 2 years, Homer was our true leader on the team. He was the top man in ground balls each of those 2 years. He was a leading scorer in the midfield and just did a marvelous job for that team. He was captain of the team, North-South game, captain of the South squad. When he was at Poly, Kenny Carey, who inducted Homer last week in the Baltimore chapter, Kenny said he was captain of our team, basketball team, lacrosse team. Truly a great leader and one that all of our guys on the teams at Hopkins looked up to him as the man. Homer was also extremely bright. He was inducted into Tau Beta Pi, the National Honorary Engineering Society. Not too many of our lacrosse guys at Hopkins. But he made that at graduation, finishing his career at Hopkins. He was given the Barton Cup, which is given to a student for strength of character and outstanding leadership at the university, singled out for that at his graduation in 1964. And the tremendous job that he's done in the whole entire program in the DC, Northern Virginia lacrosse has just been so very, very special, and it was as I would have expected for him to follow through in that manner. So Homer, you've done a great job, and along with you, your buddy, my man David, when he came up from St. Mary's School, and I don't know how much recruiting I did back then, but Billy Nolan and Dave came up, and some of you know. I said, holy mackerel. About 5'9½", about 100, maybe 45. And I guess I took to Dave because I related back to my career at Hopkins. I was a little pisser just the same. And as far as having talking to Harry Stringer, one of David's teammates, just 2 days ago, to get a few things on Dave, and he said, I said, you know, what do you remember? He said, oh, what I remember, we all called him Scotty's boy. Where's Jack Thomas? Jack? Absolutely. Scotty's boy. Right from the start, he was I love that little skinny little guy. 3 years on the varsity. 3 years on the varsity. He was one of our regular midfields all 3 years. We had to have a spot for Slafkosky because he would, one, get the ground balls, play solid defense, didn't have great speed, by the way, very, very average speed. But he was a guy who would get the ground balls, play good defense, and for 3 years, he was a regular on one of our top midfields. And fortunately, the last year we did win the national championship, and he was a key part of that team. During my 20 years of running a lacrosse camp at Giblin School, I'd always talk to the kids about, and to this day, I talk to parents, have little kids. Parents get so wound up in this game of lacrosse, as you noted, their kids are all going to be all American. I said, hey, tell your son just to work and get the ground balls. There's always a spot on a team, on a midfield, one of your couple of midfield, always have a spot for the guy who can get the ground ball. And with that in mind, Dave Slafkosky stands out as that type of person. And because that's such an important part of the game, you don't have, in fact, I did check the statistics, and I'm gonna have to give this, Dave. His freshman year, he took 9 shots for the season and had 0 goals. The next year, he took 6 shots, 2 goals, and his senior year, 10 shots and 3 goals. 5 goals for his career. I can kid him because I think I had 4 goals in my career. But he played, he was an integral part of our team, and he was that because he had a hard nose, was a tough competitor, and just hustled all over the field all of the time. And in closing, let me just say how proud I am of both David and Homer for the great job that they did as players, and the great job David in his coaching and Homer in his contributing so much to lacrosse in this area. And I know that's going to continue for many years ahead. Congratulations to both of them.
I know what Nancy's up to, and she's here in the Northern Virginia area, I think in the Leesburg area, and she's involved with youth lacrosse out that way. So we still have that Scott lacrosse connection now here in our area. So thanks, Bob. Okay, finally, we come to Homer. Now, he's got a contingent of his golfing buddies who are here, who have taken over most of this whole middle section, and we actually had to make Homer be last so that the whole room didn't get up and leave after he was finished. So, no, I'm only kidding. They came here tonight to share this evening with Homer, and it's a special thrill for him, I'm sure. Homer and I have worked on all of these Hall of Fames over the years, and it is a lot of work, but it's also a ton of fun. And so we talk on the phone probably 10 times a day for the last month and a half or 2 months, with all the plans and all the this and that, strategizing this and that. And every time I talked to Homer without fail, he always said, personally over the phone or in his emails, boy, it's getting exciting. It's getting exciting. So we saved Homer for the end. Homer's presenter, who holds a special place in Kevin Giblin's heart, I understand. He was a teammate of Homer's all the way back in their high school days at Poly High School in Baltimore. He went on to play in college at the University of New Hampshire and continued to play with the Mount Washington Tavern teams on the club level. He was an early pioneer here in the referees ranks what did you say? There were 3 teams here in the area when you started officiating. He and Tom Shekels, and then Homer joined them, providing a lot of the refereeing services here in the area for the boys' games. He currently works for the Federal Aviation Administration, looking forward to his upcoming retirement, where I think he's going to spend more time on the golf course. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Brian Poole.
Two things before I introduce Homer. First, I want to set the record straight. I think I probably refereed, Kevin, I don't know whether it was 10 to 15 Landon Georgetown prep games in my lifetime. And just for the record, you didn't win any of them. You all can make an inference from that. I know Kevin did. But Kevin and I are still friends. In fact, it was interesting times. Second, I'd like to thank Bob Scott for stealing all my material. You know, I really appreciate it. So, following coaches is tough, you know, when you gotta introduce somebody. So I'll see what I can do here, especially being a government worker, you know, I'm not used to this. Homer Schwartz. What can I say about Homer Schwartz? I think I can say 3 things about Homer which support why he should be a member of the U.S. Lacrosse Potomac Chapter's Hall of Fame. First, Homer was a great player. As Pat mentioned, I first met Homer, it's hard to believe, but it was almost 50 years ago in 1960 when we both played for the same high school team, Baltimore Polytechnic Institute. Tom Shekels, the first inductee in the Potomac Chapter's Hall of Fame, who I truly consider the father of lacrosse in the D.C. area, also played on that same team. Homer was the captain of the team, won the McCormick Unsung Hero Award, and was on the All-Maryland Scholastic Association team. He was truly the team leader. After high school, Homer went to Johns Hopkins, and as Bob mentioned, was a 2-time first-team All-American. He was awarded many other honors in college, including the Penniman Award in 1963 and 64 as the Outstanding Hopkins Midfielder, the Erlander Award in 1964 as the Outstanding Hopkins Senior Lacrosse Player, the H Club Award as the Outstanding Hopkins Undergraduate Athlete, and the Richard Seth Memorial Award given by the Naval Academy to their outstanding opposing team player. He was the captain of the Hopkins team in 64, as well as the captain of the South team in the North-South game. After college, he went to play club lacrosse for the Chicago, Carling, and Chesapeake lacrosse clubs, where he was a 4-time U.S. Club Lacrosse Association All-Club team member. Since I was playing for the Mount Washington Lacrosse Club, not Tavern Club, at the time, and played against him numerous times, and could attest firsthand that he was a great player. He still continues to play today for the seniors team in the World Games and the Seniors League in Baltimore on Wednesday nights. Homer was, and although I haven't seen him play recently, probably is still a great player. Second, Homer has contributed significantly to the growth of lacrosse in the Washington, D.C. area. Since 1995, Homer's been a lacrosse official doing games at all levels, from youth to World Games in 2004, he was named the Man of the Year by the Maryland Lacrosse Coaches Association. From 2002 to 2004, he served as the president of the Capital Area Lacrosse Officials Association. And from 2003 to present, he has served as the president of the Potomac chapter of U.S. Lacrosse and fostered its growth to over 5,000 members. He has organized and participated in numerous lacrosse clinics and camps and received the U.S. Lacrosse Regional Council Award in 2005. Last spring, Bill Tanton, who has written for the sports articles for the Baltimore Sun for many years, wrote an article in the U.S. Lacrosse magazine about unheralded volunteers that helped to support lacrosse take off. He presents Homer as an excellent example and mentions that he would be a pretty good candidate for the MVV Award, Most Valuable Volunteer Award, if there was such a thing awarded. As As a quick sidelight, some of you here may have played in the Potomac Chapter Lacrosse Golf Tournament, which Homer has organized the last several years. A couple years ago, I hit the luckiest golf shot of my life, going in a hole-in-one where I won a Bose music system. Of course, now, every time I come home from playing in a golf tournament, my wife asks, "What'd you win this time?" So I can thank Homer for that. In summary, though, Homer has contributed significantly to the growth of lacrosse in the local area. Third and finally, Homer is just a real quality person. Among the many awards Homer received outside of lacrosse, he received the Barton Cup as the outstanding graduating Hopkins senior in 1964. He is in Who's Who in American colleges and universities, received a Military Distinguished Service Award as a membership of the Fellowship of Christian Athletes. Last weekend, he was inducted in the Baltimore chapter of U.S. Lacrosse Hall of Fame. I don't know of anyone who does not like and respect Homer. However, Homer does have one minor flaw, which Bill pointed out in his article. He mentions that Homer is a dyed-in-the-wool Blue Jay fan. If you go to any Hopkins lacrosse game or any other event, Homer is always there. And of course, if you feel like going, Karen is there too. So that is what I can say about Homer Schwartz. I consider myself privileged to have Homer as a friend. And with that, I'm honored to present Homer Schwartz.
I'm no longer excited, I'm nervous. Wow. You're right, you've been at this job forever. Whew, what a month it's been for me. What a night, what a month. I can't say how much I appreciate everything I felt and everybody that's here tonight. It's going to be a little tough, but I'll get through it. First of all, congratulations to everybody. I feel honored to be in a group like this and to be people who have contributed to lacrosse and achieve things in lacrosse that this group has. Thanks to Pat McCardle, to the committee, and to the Potomac board, who have all become very special friends to me over the last few years. My life's been filled with excitement, waking up in the middle of the night thinking about all the things in the past, as my wife Karen can attribute. For the past 60 years, lacrosse has been a big part of my life. It's a lot of, I think about it, and Karen and I talk a lot. I'll tell you a story. When we're going somewhere, I just get in the car, I know where we're going. She goes, "Well, how are we going to get there?" I go, "Who cares? I know where we're going." She says, "Well, I want to know how we're going to get there." So we go through the route we're going to take. And I've suddenly come to realize in the last month or so that it is how you get there and not where you are. It's the journey of lacrosse that's been so much special to me. Lucky for me, I've had two journeys in my lacrosse life. First as a player in Baltimore at Poly and Hopkins, and then going away from lacrosse for years, interrupted by career and family, as many of you have and know, and then you come back to it. The opportunity for the second journey was very special for me in that it started by renewing an old friendship with Tom Shekels, and then that led to renewing old friendships with all my Poly high school players as I had moved to Virginia chasing my wife Karen. Finally talked her into marrying me. I came over here and I asked Tom, I said, "Tom, you know, I really would like to, I think I'd like to coach. I want to get back in lacrosse." And I had been coaching youth teams with my friend John Kenworthy, who's here tonight, another Poly teammate, and his son as he came up through the youth. And I said, you know, I think I'd like to meet the lacrosse people in the Washington area and get into coaching. And Tom said, "Well, why don't you try refereeing? You know, that's a good way to meet people." And I said, "Well, why not? Sure, that's a good thing." So So that's how I got started in the refereeing. Little did I know where that path would take me. I quickly realized that the need was really for more experienced referees, people who knew the game, and that my wife didn't need me out there knocking heads with the Giblins, the Bordleys, the Malcolm Listers, the Kevin Popes, the Mark Pims, the Jim Collins, the Ed Kostelanskis, the Brewers of the world that are over here. They didn't need me, and it would have been embarrassing after I'd have been run over by all of them for sure. So refereeing became the avenue that I took, and then I got involved with the chapter and found out that really the journey of lacrosse is all about the people that you meet and the friends that you make and the things that you do. And I think the second journey in meeting people and feeling the exhilaration of giving back to the game has meant more to me than all those accolades you might get as a player. It's been a very, very special time in my life. A couple things that I've said, and I have to say it, I've said it last week, but it is about a couple of people that are important in my life. Other than my family, my parents, and my brother, who couldn't be with us tonight because his wife is very ill. It's the people, high school coaches and college coaches, and I've been very lucky, as Dave talked about, to have two of the greatest. Ken Carey, my high school coach, he was my high school history teacher. I remember going into the first year class, and I was sitting in the front of the room, and I look up on his desk, and he was the new coach that year. He was a hockey coach, and there's Kelso Marl's book on how to coach lacrosse. I'm going, what am I getting into here? The coach is reading a book on how to coach lacrosse. Well, I soon found out that the lessons I were going to learn from him weren't about how to play lacrosse, but it was the values and how to live your life. And then I had a second chance. I went on to Hopkins, following my father and my brother and that tradition in our family. And I ran into Bob Scott and Fred Smith. Fred's not with us any longer, but he's always with me, and I think with many people in this room. One of the great men of the game, always there when you came off the field, and whether you were right or wrong, good or bad, he always had an arm around you. And he was the assistant coach to Bob all the years I played, and I'll never forget what he did for me. And then there's Scotty. These people set the values that I've lived my life by. What's important to me, and how I've judged people, and how I wanted people to judge me. And I guess my favorite Scotty story, as I told it last year, I'm standing there, a sophomore, playing at hallowed Homewood Field, as he called it. And it really was. It was quite a place when you're an 18-year-old kid going up there and seeing 5,000 or 6,000 people looking down and wondering what you're going to do. I'm standing there waiting for our turn at midfield next to Henry Ciccarone. And I'm looking around, and all of a sudden, we did something wrong as a team. And I look up, and there's Scott, and he bangs his clipboard, and he goes, "Golly bless it." Golly bless it. Well, there wasn't any trash talking on that team. As I soon found out. So those are people that help you learn how to live your life, and they taught me a lot more than how to be a lacrosse player. They taught me how to live my life and the values that I've set and lived by forever, and I'll never forget them for that. So as I said, the first journey was really as a player, playing in Poly in high school, and there are a bunch of high school guys here. I see them back, Danny and John Weintraub and John Kenworthy, and we used to ride if you know Baltimore, the old Poly was on North Avenue, not in a very good section of town. We had a concrete campus. We didn't have any fields, so we had to ride the streetcar over to a public park where we practiced. And we always went in a group because we went through a pretty rough neighborhood. So there were always 5 or 6 guys walking along with their sticks because occasionally we had to fight our way through the neighborhood. So I always remember that. And then with Coach Carey, who essentially took our team to the city championship from nowhere. Not because he had great players, but because he knew how to get a lot out of hardworking people who loved the game. And that's what we did. We never could beat the private schools back in the 60s, but we came awful close. Then I went on to Hopkins, And I said, experiencing there and then playing at the Naval Academy for 12,000 people when they opened Navy Marine Corps Stadium. Those are memories that live with you forever. And playing with guys like Ciccarone and Jerry Schmidt. Then I went to graduate school out in Northwestern, and there I ran into George Corrigan and Jock Jenke and some other great players from the Baltimore era, and we started the Chicago Lacrosse Club. 3 of us, a bunch of football and hockey players. We had a ball. Then I came back to Baltimore and played with the Carling Chesapeake Lacrosse Club. Back then there were no world games, world teams, no professional lacrosse. It was club lacrosse. And that was the epitome of lacrosse, because in your 20s, that's when you're the best athlete that you'll ever be in your life, and usually they were the best lacrosse teams. And we went head-to-head with the colleges in those days, and it was a lot of fun. We practiced at the brewery, the Carling Brewery, and then in those days you practiced twice a week. And I see John Weston nodding his head back there. So you can imagine, here we are, we used the locker room for the workers. We had a field, and every night we practiced, which was twice a week. Some guy would drive up with a forklift pallet full of beer. 44 cases of beer, and there weren't any left, but guys were going out with duffel bags filled with cases of beer. And it was so much fun that we didn't want to go home. So we said, well, we got to eat. So then Bob Lempton, another Maryland guy that everybody knows, great human being, Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde, a real ogre on the field, but a wonderful man in person. He starts ordering crabs, so we'd order crabs and have them delivered through the gatehouse in the brewery. What fun. The craziest times. And then finally they started world teams. But Australia used to come through, as Jim would know, and the Australian teams would come through, and they would play the teams, the colleges and the club teams, and they would stay with us. So we had 2 players staying with us. This other fellow and I rented a big Wuthering Heights type house out in the country, and so we had them staying with us. And so they came, and Brian was probably playing then. So the Australians thought they were really good, and they beat Mount Washington, who had been the class of club lacrosse for a while, on a Sunday night. On Monday, I was working for IBM, and I had to go to Poughkeepsie, New York, with a bunch of people from the Black & Decker Corporation. So I was up there for the whole week. So I get a phone call from a fellow named Joe Harlan on Tuesday night. He said, "Get your ass back here." I went, "What happened?" He said, "The Australians beat Mount Washington. We're not letting them out of town." So I come back I fly back into town, make excuses to get out of this class with all these executives from Black & Decker. That was a real coup. But. So it's a night game, and we're using the Mount Washington field, and it's a lighted game at night. And the fellow who was my roommate designed brand new uniforms for a fellow named Paul Baker, and they were black uniforms. So we come out on the field at night in black uniforms, and I walk out on the field, and this fellow, Brian Giblin, goes, "What the hell are you doing here? I thought you were out of town." And I said, "Brian, you should have never beaten Mount Washington. We're not letting you out of town. Thinking I'm the best team." Millions of stories like that from the playing days. But then the shift came over, and I retired from IBM and moved to Virginia. Met Karen, married her, and got into refereeing. For me, refereeing was the closest thing to playing that you could get when you weren't able to play anymore at that level. And it's like Karen says, "What were you doing out there?" I said, "Those midfielders didn't know it. They were in a race, but they were racing me down the field." And then in the same year, I lost 2 great friends. A fellow friend of ours who was a good friend of Karen's, and he was a doctor. Funny guy, emergency room surgeon. And when I moved over here, I said, well, if I got to pay for license plates, I'm going to get one that I like. So I get one that says Blue Jay Lax, and he's looking at this thing, and his name was Duncan Harlow, and he goes, He said, that's a funny license plate. What's lax mean? He said, that's the airport, isn't it? I said, no. So I explained the story to him, and he said, well, he said, you were a little lacrosse player, right? And now you're not a lacrosse player. So that makes you an ex-lacrosse player. So why don't you get ex-lax? So I'm out refereeing a game with Tom, and you have get a little time on the field, and you have to tell stories. So I was telling Tom the story, and he goes over and he said, well, there you have it. He said, that's it, medical proof that you guys from Hopkins are full of it. And then my other favorite story is Kevin at Mater Dei. I'm refereeing a youth game. I'd retired from IBM. I hadn't seen this person for years. Her name's M.L. Shanahan. And one of her boys is playing at Mater Dei, and I'm refereeing the game. And you know, she sees me out there. She hadn't seen me for 10 years. And she's yelling, hey, Elmer, Elmer! You know, and she, after the game, I come up and see her, and she tells me the story. She said, well, I saw you out there, and I was calling your name, and the guy next to me, one of the parents, he says, ML, you can't do that. You can't call the referee a homer. She said, but that's his name. I'll never forget that day. I didn't tell that to Kevin, but he knows ML. And then when we lost Tom, it was a very difficult year. And Tom was, as Brian said, he really was the father of lacrosse over here, and I'm just following in some great footsteps. But we put a memorial together at a park. It's a bench and a rock. And thanks to Mid Tillman, who's here tonight, and the Mila lacrosse group, now the Bethesda lacrosse group, made a big contribution that we were able to do it. And I'm over there refereeing my favorite group. I call them the bobbleheads. It's the little kids. They don't have a crease. They don't have anything. They're falling all over everything. On Saturday mornings, and Mid's out there, and there's this big rock and a bench. It's a beautiful place. And they finished practice, and I'm standing there watching the kids. And they go, okay, guys, let's go. Time to touch the rock. And all these kids parade over there and put their hand on the rock. Well, that got to me pretty quick, I'll tell you. Very powerful moment. And then, I mean, there are hundreds of them here, and the other one I remember, you remember exhilarating times, the game at Georgetown Prep. They're playing Landon. It was the first one I had refereed, and there were 5,000 people in the stands. And I'm standing there on the field going, wow, I don't know if I've ever felt a thrill like that, even in the playing days. And it was just a magnificent feeling. So the story goes on. I get involved with the chapter. I meet all the great people on the board, and we understand the needs. I mean, it's easy when you have people around you like Pat Ricardo, Mike Zarallo, I can name them all. Susan Merritt, Elaine Noblock, Bill Blaustein, Pat Stewart, Mike Zarallo. It goes on and on. They're the board. It's easy when I just stand there and look good because they're doing all the work. So it's all the special new friendships, and then the one that's become even more special to me in recent years, I guess it started with Dick's induction in the Hall of Fame. And it's a very special thing to me. He says, you made my list. There are only 3 Blue Jays on the list. And they're all here tonight. And I said, that's probably greater than being in any Hall of Fame, because what a man. I was on the other side of that rivalry for so long, I had no idea what the human being motivating the kids at the University of Maryland were like, and I'm indebted to you. I've learned more from you in 1 year than I learned in 10 years of being alone. Anyway, I'm getting melancholy. I gotta watch out. I'm also keeping you away from the bar. So the journey goes on. As Karen used to ask me she asked me once, she said, it was about in May. She said, when's lacrosse season over? I said, well, June or something. Now she doesn't ask me, she says, it's never over. So what I'll treasure most in the journey is the friends that I've made, the experiences I've had with the people here, and the joy that it's brought to my life. My humblest and sincerest thanks for all the memories you've given to me. It's a great pleasure to be here with all of you tonight. Thank you.
All right. And finally, can we have a final round of applause for all our inductees?